Setting it up. Okay, we are live. If you have YouTube, when you sound off, we are live on YouTube with Ely Katz. Ely and I have no. Hi, Ely. Ely lives in Israel, by the way, and as you can hear, he has a crappy internet connection. Ely and I have known each other for. Let me just make sure you hang on 1 second. Give me 1 second. Perfect.
Is your mom calling? What's going on?
Not just checking YouTube. Okay, good. We're on. Oop. Okay, so Ely and I have known each other for how many years now, Ely?
Whoa, right after I got married. 25, 26 years, I'd say.
25, 26 years. Why don't you tell everyone how we met? What were you doing back then?
So back in the day of my beginning time in this business, I was playing drums, looking to play with anybody and everybody. Actually, it was right after I had finished a period where I was actually, if you remember this, in dental school for a few seconds. And yes, okay. I was in NYU dental school for a few seconds, and I wasn't really happy. Thank God, with a very supportive wife who was an accountant, I decided to go back to what I loved all along all the years before, during, and now after, which is music, and I was playing drums. And I got this great call to come to some place in Crown Heights called BJC by some guy named Avremi G, and it was great.
I'm not sure that's how we met.
Well, how do we meet? Remind me for a second and see if I can remember what you remember.
I think you had a gig in St. Louis.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I remember this now.
All right, go ahead.
So you had a gig in St. Louis. You came out and played it. You led it.
How do I let everyone know that we're on YouTube? Give me 1 second over here. 1 second.
You're right. I remember pulling up at the airport and meeting you for the first time, having no idea what you looked like, because it was before anybody knew what anybody looked like until you met them.
Okay.
And you led a job with me that I was doing in St. Louis. I think I even remember who it was. I think it was the Gerson family, if I'm not mistaken, whose brother lives in Chashmonaim with me. And I remember that very well, yeah. And we hit it off, thank God, after that job. You led a whole bunch of locals, and me and you, and it was quite a unique experience. It was a lot of fun, not to mention the job went great. They were very happy. And that's how we first met. And then all those BJC jobs in Crown Heights came after.
Let's talk about those BJC jobs.
Okay. Well, at this point, I've seen a heck of a lot because of all the things that I've been zocha and been fortunate to be part of. But at that point, I had not been to that part of the world to play jobs yet. I played a couple of places that are in my orientation of what was the norm, YU and the like, and camps and stuff like that. But let's tell everyone, BJC means Brooklyn Jewish Center, which is now known as Olei Torah. But back in the day, it was called BJC. And Ely, what is different about BJC and YU? I don't understand. Nothing's different as far as the awesomeness of it. It was just a different orientation as far as the way the gigs were set up. I remember sometimes, more than one time, we would be on a different room and a different floor. You'd be down in that auditorium-like room with that proper stage, and I'd be upstairs with maybe Ira Silber, or Andy Statman, or someone like that, playing for all the women, and you'd be downstairs playing with all the guys, okay? And as much as I had heard of, separate weddings as far as like men and women, of course, I'd never been to one where there's separate rooms on separate floors. This was definitely an eye-opener for me, not to mention all the steps you had to climb up to get your stuff into the hall.
Okay, so I think what you're referring to is when Brooklyn Jewish Center, the tower was a little smaller back then. And I think the reason they had weddings in different rooms was a space issue, as opposed to for want of a better word, a Hasidic issue or religious issue. But even so, it was interesting.
Yes, and not to mention, there were things that happened at those events and those jobs that were just something that had never happened before to me.
Oh, really?
So, there was a couple that I remember very, very well.
Let's talk about it.
One's more like it was something you and I both had never done before. I wasn't prepared for the kind of challenges my stomach would have when at Brooklyn Jewish Center And once again, in the first few jobs I was there, I had to learn with experience what I should and shouldn't eat there, just because of my simple town Chicago palate was ill prepared. And it was the only time that I can remember that in the middle of my playing, I looked at a band leader and said, "We need to stop playing right now." And I looked at you and you're like, "Why?" I go, "I'm not discussing this."
And how does a band go on without the drummer? It's not easy, right?
No, it's not easy at all. But it was a lot of fun. And by the way, it was great chops for me to learn from, because anything could happen on those jobs. You could go from any kind of music in front of you on a dime, especially when you were leading, because only you knew what you were thinking most of the time. So it was fun.
Would you say I was a relaxed leader or an anxious leader? Tell the truth.
I tell you, I actually think you were pretty relaxed. I do, because you had a pretty organized orientation, and you knew what you had to do, and you knew the crowd better than anybody, because it's your oilum. But more specifically, you had this great saying that also I had not heard until I was on your side, as far as playing those gigs, and that was, you used to turn to me and used to blow a kiss. And I remember I would look at you and go, what's that? like maybe you like me, maybe you don't like me. And then you yell, "Kiss!" And I'm like, never heard of that one before. Once again, beginning. And then you explain, "Keep it simple, stupid." And I learned, that is a very clear message how Garari likes it done.
That's right. In fact, I had it on my keyboard in white letters, KISS, KISS.
Yes. So I remember it well. There were a lot of great things about that place and those gigs. They were a lot of fun. So much energy in the room. Ziv Nagari right in front of me over and over and over again, playing his certain style. And we had a great time. We did.
Yep, those are good times. Now, for those that are in my audience, meaning the people that work with me and know me in the Hasidic world and so on, not a lot of people, some people know who Ely Katz is, but not everyone knows who Ely Katz is. I want to talk a little bit about Ely Katz. Ely started out in the music business and branched out. Ely is a great salesman. I would say a master salesman. So Ely branched out from music into other various forms of entertainment. So I want to talk a little bit about that, which is not only music. Let's talk about your Pesach programs, your Sukkot programs, and other things you do throughout the year. And we can also talk about what you did for my son's bar mitzvah as well. So,
So
go ahead.
Just to give an idea of, what we're going to what I kind of do now, to what we were talking about before. Years ago, there was this very obvious orientation to the bar mitzvah scene, that a lot of people were looking for other forms of entertainment as opposed to just music. Baruch Hashem, as we go on in this business of music and dancing and entertainment, whatever you're going to call it, you don't want to keep doing the same cookie cutter thing. Everybody wants something different. Everybody wants to have their own uniqueness to their event. And I was getting requested over and over again of, what else do you got? What else do you got? And we had certain entertainers and certain musicians who were quite unique as far as what they could bring to the table on their own, but it was still music in the best form, hopefully, but there's only so much you can do. And it became obvious that if I could bring other forms of entertainment in at their simcha, it really was in the beginning bar mitzvahs, it would add a lot more spice to the whole event. And as that became more prevalent, I would sort of be thinking along the lines of, what else would be looking for entertainment? And I was lucky enough to get a phone call, to sort of fast forward a little bit, from a couple of operators who had heard about me as far as music and entertainment, who were running Pesach programs. And they called and they said to me, "We'd like to have you come and take care of the music." And once I met with them, we started talking about other things as far as taking care of the entertainment as well. One thing led to another, and I realized that there's a whole bunch of Pesach programs out there that, although they're thinking music, they may not be thinking about the entertainment so much. So this is way before the world we're in today. And I decided I'm just going to open up the back of the Jewish Press, take out, the section that had all the Pesach programs. There's like a whole bunch of pages at the time. Pesach program, Pesach program. And in my second and third year of doing Pesach programs, I just started calling the other programs and saying, "Hey, I'm at the Granite," what was, Hudson Valley Resort now is what it's called, and working for the Hachdorf family, which was just a fantastic experience as well. They're wonderful people. And some places were like, "No, we got it covered." And some of the places were, "Where have you been all my life?" And so it was a wonderful way of just sort of seeing what else is out there. And that led to other forms of corporate entertainment, and to summer programs, and to bungalow colonies, and to camps, and to corporate events. and to holiday parties and to destination events and to private parties. And one thing leads to another that I think it's fair to say in any business you're in, that if you're doing hopefully a good job of what you're doing, people will sooner or later hear about you, and one friend tells another friend tells another friend. And now you're starting to do things outside of this world completely. I have corporate events that I do for offices in New Jersey and New York that are completely of any kind of orientation. All walks of life are there, okay? And so with that in mind, but it started from one thing and it sort of walked its way over to another. And so that gives you an idea of how I've gotten into the more the entertainment scene as opposed to just the music scene. Now to get to what you're talking about in specific, this year I wouldn't use as the best example for Pesach, but I can tell you that in general, we've been, thank God, lucky enough to work with many programs. And on any given year, we'll have something like approximately 40 something to 50 something shows going on just in Pesach and that Holomoid.
The name of your company is called Symphonia Productions. Just so everyone knows, Symphonia Productions. Go ahead.
And they'll be of all different types. Some of the things you're a part of, which are some of the concerts where you'll be leading them, and you've been doing that for years. And some of them are magicians and mentalists and comedians and game shows and all the variety of different types of entertainment. And the thing that I like to think that we have a little bit of a niche on is the fact that I can hopefully make the right connection with the place as far as each hotel has a little bit of a different flavor. Certain crowds go to some hotel, certain crowds go to another hotel. Sometimes it's a nice little mix. And therefore, when they call up, having gotten to know the program, having to know what they are interested in as far as the style, and of course the budget, you get an idea of what would work best and the best formula to give them often as far as what they should be doing. Often I'll go to a hotel, and depending on how many days we're talking about, I'll say, let's do something really big here and something smaller here. Let's do a big production and a small, let's be smart about this. And a lot of hotels like to hear that kind of insight because they're too busy dealing with the 800 or 1,000 people with all the logistical points of taking care of that. And I'm the one who takes care of the fun at their entertainment as far as what they're doing through Pesach.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my son's bar mitzvah, you very graciously go ahead.
Yeah, so I remember two things about that. Okay, three actually just come to mind. It was
let me say that my son's bar mitzvah was in Camp Chayole in Pennsylvania. So go ahead, Ely.
You can call Pennsylvania. It felt like another state by the time I got there. It was
exactly.
Okay, right. But it was quite a trip. I remember I kept going over these little bridges in the middle of, I don't know where I was. Okay, but thank God we got there. We had a great time. It was a wonderful camp. There were a couple things I remember. One is the original group that you might remember that I called for it couldn't make it to New York. And the other group that I got had already started driving back to Chicago, and I stopped them en route, and they came to camp, and they went to sleep because they hadn't slept because they had driven all day long before they did. So that was great. Number two is I remember showing up to this camp, and it's this really rustic, kind of cool camp, and I wanted to know if there was Wi-Fi. And this was just a new thing. And they're like, yeah, but you got to give us your phone. And I'm like, why do I have to give you my phone? And they explained to me that the kids in this camp are so tech savvy that they've cracked the router repeatedly. So they have to put some type of app on my phone that will only align with the router because these kids who don't look like the kind of savvy kids that I was expecting were cracking the router left and right and breaking through and doing whatever they wanted. So that was also another first for me that I was just like, never heard that one before. So, but it was a great night. It was a basketball show by the Skywriters, I think it was. It was a basketball show, right?
I don't remember the name of the group. All I can tell you is that my kid, his friends, and the entire camp had an amazing time, and they still talk about it.
Yeah. So thank God we've done a lot of things at a lot of camps every year. Last year you were with us. We went up to what was it, Camp Simcha?
I did a Camp Simcha gig with you with Ohad.
I think with Ohad. So we go up with Ohad almost every year, and we go with Gad Elbaz. I've gone with many different performers up to Camp Simcha, and that's something I look forward to every year. And then there's other camps that each camp's looking for something different. The Zone's looking for something. Sometimes it'll be Moshe Shabbat, it's been Morashat, it's been Seneca Lake. Each camp is its own type of place. And I actually have a vast collection of T-shirts that, we have another great story from another camp you and I did together.
Okay, we're going to get to the funny stories in a second.
Okay, but so I have this collection of T-shirts, and we've been to a tremendous diverse type of different camps. Some will call on the more yeshivish side of town, for lack of a better term, and some on the more modern side of town. So what I try to do is I try to wear the T-shirts that would never think of being wearing those T-shirts. So I've showed up, and they're like, "Where'd you get that from?" So it's just an interesting conversation piece sometimes. But thank God I've collected many of those, because when you go to the camp and do the shows, they want you to wear the t-shirt. So we have a lot of fun with that. My kids enjoy it also.
Excuse me. So what's interesting about Ely, Ely emigrated to Israel how many years ago?
It'll be 20 years this summer.
20 years?
This summer. Yeah.
No way. And what Ely has successfully been able to do is maintain his business in America. Does a lot of flying from Israel to America. Been to his house in Chashmonaim. I'm going to tell you a story of how that happened. And every time he flies to America, he posts a little picture on Facebook and he says, "Bus with wings." And off he goes to Newark Airport, where he has an apartment in
Passaic, New Jersey.
Passaic, New Jersey. Okay. So the way several years back, I did a recording for Avram Fried in Israel, and we went to record. And Avremel and I flew in different flights, and it was during Lag BaOmer. It was at around about the Lag BaOmer time, and hotel availability was very limited. So Avremel's company in Israel actually set me up at a hotel in believe it or not, in Bnei Brak. I think the name of the hotel was Malon Vishnitz, maybe. I don't know. Could be.
That should have given you a clue.
Right, but I didn't know what to expect. Anyway, I arrive in Israel. I check into Malon Vishnitz, and the first thing I do is I call my friend Ely Katz, and I say, "Ely, you're going to get me out of here." And he graciously invited me to his home in Chashmonaim, and what a beautiful home it is, and what a beautiful area it is. I encourage everyone who travels to Israel to take a visit to Chashmonaim. It's just a wonderful little community. I didn't spend a lot of time over there, but had an awesome time in Ely's home. And
you skipped one part of the story.
What's the one part of the story? Go ahead.
You called Avremel and you said, "You need to come to Chashmonaim. Come stay with me here."
Right. So he actually almost did, and then his
right.
His manager over there just set him up in some other kind of situation, and that. But
all the money they saved with you not going.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. So, Ely, I'm gonna go move to. I thought that we talk about some of the stories that you and I have experienced over the years, and you relate stories about us to other people. And even though we're now in a public forum, I don't care. Let's go for it.
There's so many. I don't know which order to start in.
So let's go for it. And
some are great moments that I was truly awestruck and like so impressed, and other are just plain funny. Okay, so
okay. I mean, a couple of stories come to mind. I'll name the stories: the Mixer story, the Atikva story.
The Atikva story I'll get to, that's more current. You'll remind me of that.
But
the one that we definitely should talk about is the Bar Park Up on Top story, where the lady kept coming over and telling you to lower the volume.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this goes back at least 20-something years, and it was a band that it was a gig that I booked to lead with, lead the job, and I would often play drums and sing at the same time, and you would sing as well. And so we were up on the second floor of Yom Moshe. What was it? I can't remember the name of the place. It was someplace in Brooklyn. Whatever, Brooklyn special. Anyway, so we were there and we were playing, and the mom of the chassan, whoever it was, kept coming over to us throughout the first dance set and very clearly and adamantly and aggressively telling us, you need to lower the volume because it was just way too loud. And so you wanted to make her happy, no problem. And you went over, fashion Mackie mixer, little knob, and you turned it, and fine. And she went her merry way. And the kids down below were, no, come on, make it louder. They were like clearly expressing they wanted to rock it more. So we raised it. She came back up a second time. She asked again. You lowered it again.
This is an old problem in general in Jewish music, but go ahead.
Yes, it is. So anyways, so then we once again started to rock it again, and she comes upstairs. And by that point, after 2 times, she obviously clearly understood what you did to lower the volume. So remember, you have to understand the world we're in. We're in like, very Haredi, whatever term you want to use, Brooklyn Park, okay? And she goes over to the mixer and she puts her hand on the knob to lower the volume. And the next thing I see is Garari grab her hand, okay? And there's only so many shades of white that you've seen in this lifetime. Well, that's right. Those whites that she turned. And She never returned. I've never seen her again. She went away. So Garari really gets a lot of credit for coming up with the best way to deal with the issue, because we could play as loud as we wanted.
We solved the problem.
Yes, we solved the problem. It was those moments. So that's one of the stories. What's the next one you want me to relay?
Unless you want to remember something that I don't remember, we can talk about that time in camp where I went with my family.
Yes. Okay. So
About that?
we did a show, we did 2 shows that day, actually.
I think so.
Bungalow Colony, and both were with Benny, and we won't say the names of the places, but both were Friedman. And first show went great, and the second show was, with no reason to think it wouldn't be great either, because the second show was even easier after the first. We worked the same day, so we're all setting up in this camp. Once again, yeshivish place, to say the least. Okay. And we had all been there all day, because we had a morning show and a late afternoon, early evening show at this camp. And Garari, understandably, decided to make a family day out of it. So he brought his lovely wife and their daughter, okay? And they were with him. We're all set up, everything's fine. And I think we even finished the sound check at that point. I think we were actually playing music. And his family was sitting right next to him on the stage while no one was in the room when we were doing a sound check. And one of the, what we'll call Hanhola of the camp, came over and said, "Who are these ladies here?" And so they were introduced as Avremi's wife and daughter. And they conveyed to us very clearly that the daughter, who was a teenager at the time, but dressed exceptionally, like, according to the rules, which for a place like this, there was no issue there at all, okay, would have to leave camp for the future of this evening and for anything going on past, any kind of event there. She has to leave, like, now. Okay, so as soon as that happened, Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde happened, okay? Avremi G went from Avremi G to, I haven't given the other person a name yet, but we'll just call him Truck Driver Abe, okay? That's what we'll call him. And the vocabulary and the
I was assertive.
Eloquence of his taking on the situation and how he dealt with it was once again, on the one hand, concerning to anybody who was in the room. But for me, I was laughing my head off. I was just enjoying the moment beyond, because I do know Avremi, and I know that it's in there somewhere, but I didn't expect it to come out like that. And it was incredible. Like, you might expect other people, myself included, to maybe go that route, but not Avremi was all over it. And I think they realized very clearly what was happening here. I mean, Avremi was like ready to walk. Okay? And this is a Benny Friedman concert, and all 800 kids were going to show up, and thank God they did. And it was great. But what happened in the end was that his daughter was able to sit in an equipment room area with the door open from the back of the stage, where no human could really see her, and accommodate this camp with the concerns and sensitivities that they had. So another moment in time that I will never forget.
Yep, we took care of business.
Yeah. Another one comes to mind, by the way. Let's talk about just business, okay? I was in Chicago. I was doing a wedding. It was for one of my cousins, I believe. And my uncle asked for a song. and the song that I had was in the wrong key, I believe. And it was before email and everything getting like that. I needed to have it faxed, and I needed to have it transposed, like, accordingly to what we need to do, literally 45 minutes before the wedding. And 5 minutes later, was at the fax machine at the hotel in Chicago. My uncle, I remember, flipping out. I couldn't believe how quickly it was taken care of. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I know I'm working with some of the best people, because...
So kind of you to say.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the next story. And as a preface, just to set the stage, I'm Chabad, as everyone knows. And he's looking at me like quizzically. Chabad? Who knew? Ely,
let's not forget the Shabbos I spent by you. Hello.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, what happened that Shabbos? It was a very pleasant Shabbos. You had a great time. We had a great
I'm just saying. I know all about you and your family and your
my family, of course. By the way, Ely, every now and again, nudges my wife for one thing or another. WhatsApps her, invites her to Israel. And
well, if our Avremi doesn't say no to something that I'd like to have done or being part of, I'll just, tell him.
Anyway, so I'm from a Chabad family, and we're not going to get into Ashkaf or politics, but as everyone knows, Chabad is, I wouldn't say an anti-Zionist movement, but it's definitely, not how do we describe this? Not a pro at Tikva, not a pro.
No, it's very pro-Israel in certain respects.
Pro specs, exactly.
More from our story.
We don't celebrate.
Specific.
We don't celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut. We don't sing at Tikva.
Right.
We don't recognize the concept of Schalta de Geula and so on. Ely can be described as, go ahead. What kind of Jew are you, Ely?
Modern Orthodox in the general sense, as far as I think most people identify with, YU in specific, and very pro-Aliyah, pro-Zionist. Born and raised in Chicago, went to Keren B'Yavneh, went to YU. My wife is from North Jersey, Englewood. She went to Stern, and we lived in both Seg and Teaneck and in Hashmonaim, and all those orientations that complement that.
So I think that makes everything very clear. Ely and I have been working for a particular client, a Chabad client, for several years, where I put the band and the sound together, and Ely books a talent, meaning most times a singer. And this story took place in one of those situations. Go ahead, Ely.
Okay, so first of all, before we say the story, let's just first talk about the many, many years we, thank God, have successfully had wonderful events for this dinner in Long Island.
That's
okay,
correct.
Long Island. It's in a beautiful neighborhood. It's, I mean, out of several hundred people who show up to this event, how many people are actually Chabad? I don't know, but very few, okay? It's a very diverse crowd, very, very, very modern crowd, very professional crowd. And so by no means is there anything there except a very polished orientation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so by no means in a Chabad mode way of thinking beyond the fact that the event is a Chabad event that is there to have a dinner and raise funds for Chabad, which is wonderful. But my Chabad brain wasn't on as far as musicality. It was more of the event itself. That's my little difference as far as what I'm about to tell the story. Okay? But what happened was that we had one event, what was it, 2 years ago?
About 2 or 3 years ago. Yep.
Okay, 2 or 3 years ago. And it was incredible. It's possibly one, if not the best, one of the best ones we've ever done. Music and the performance was just flawless. The singer, I think we could say his name. It was a great event. It was Itzik Dadia, okay? And it was just a fantastic evening.
Right.
The sound, we had, who did we have on sound? What's his name? We had, I remember who it was.
That might have been Moshe Zuckerman, perhaps.
No, the sound man.
Oh, Ely Lashinsky was there.
Ely Lashinsky was there. The sound was amazing. I actually have a video I put on YouTube of it. The place we played in was this open field behind this absolutely gorgeous house behind the pool. It was just a beautiful night. The weather was pristine. Everything was great. And it was so great performance that people started not only to enjoy the performance from a concert point of view, but they started dancing at the end. And we always have extra music allotted for an encore and even another encore, and sometimes even another encore. We had gone through all that. It was completely finished. We had gone through every song and every extra we had planned for, and they wanted more. So I was trying to think of a song that would be great, that we could continue to play, that this Israeli singer who barely speaks English knows, and the crowd would love. Once again, remember it.
Before you go on, even though it's a Chabad event, about 5% of the crowd is Chabad. The rest are secular Jews. Go ahead.
Exactly what I said before. So I'm thinking along those lines. And Garari goes me over and says, we need another song. What do you suggest? So I say, without thinking a lot, understandably, remember, he's an Israeli singer. I say, Hatikva, okay? And Garari loses it, okay? He just goes crazy on me. I mean, he starts yelling at me, have you never been to a Chabad event before? What is wrong with you? And so I quickly realized not only could this have been a bad idea, it was possibly the worst idea to give. And so instead of us dealing with the moment of what song we're going to play, there was a 10 or 15 second moment of, you're nuts. That was a bad idea. We're not doing that. So I was sort of trying to still deal with what am I going to do we should play with still getting this incredible amount of musar, okay, from Avremi at the same time, which in its own right was enjoyable to a certain degree. Anyways, I don't even remember what the song we played was. We did another song. It ended the event. It was absolutely fantastic. Nobody from the event had any idea that any of that had happened. But when it was over, not only did I get a lesson from Avremi, he pulled me over and wanted me to hear from the Rav of Chabad also, so to prove his point. And many other times we've done events since then, he'll say to me, we can play it here, but we can't play it
Play it there.
right? So he's taught me well. I am absolutely able to say I don't know everything, and that was a learning curve.
Okay. I want to talk about a few more things. Before we do that, do you remember any other remarkable stories?
Don't come to me. There were a bunch more.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of where else the unique places. Well, there were the gigs that you also, they were just incredible events to be a part of that you, thank God, were a big part of why we were there. I had never been to South Africa before you had recommended us to go there. And so
let's talk about the South African gig.
Okay, the South African job, it ended up, I went there once and then I went there again. And so it was, it was incredible to be a part of something like that before. And you were all over that job because you were very good friends with them. So we did a couple of cool things that you were a part of behind the scenes.
Right.
So I got a phone call from Avremi years back. Okay? And he tells me that he has a client friend, Avremi, for all those who don't know, is originally from South Africa.
Yep.
Having both in Cape Town and Johannesburg.
Yep, I'm African American.
What? I'm sorry?
I'm African American.
African American, right. And whose grandfather in specific and family in general are well known there, having now traveled all over the world, but those years were well known to many who were there. And so Rabbi, I get a phone call from Rabbi saying, I have someone, I think you'd be someone that would be someone great to put this together and go to South Africa and do a job for him. It's a bar mitzvah, get on the phone. So we get on the phone, and this client in particular, the family name is Feldman, wonderful people, he wanted to be the first person to bring Ohad Moskowitz to South Africa. He loves Ohad. Ohad hasn't been here before. And another story in a story there, by the way.
You're cutting off just a little bit. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
So I work with Ohad for years. We're very close friends. And I call up Ohad, and he loves the idea. We're going to go to South Africa. Fine. Another thing that happened was when I got in touch with him, it was obvious to me that he wanted to do something really special, and not just for the Sunday bar mitzvah concert party thing, but also the Shabbos. So as we got on the phone, the Maccabees had just been coming. You see, I'm getting some kind of thing here that says it's not stable. You see me good? Okay.
I see you great.
Okay, good. So anyways.
You probably don't have good internet connection. I
know I don't. You're right. Anyway, so we get on the phone, me and Mr. Feldman, and it's Howard now because we're good friends. And I start talking to him, and it was at that time that the Maccabees were really getting to be something special as well. And I had done work with them for a little while. And the next thing you know, it's Ohad and the Maccabees, which was, to him, they had not been there before, and to everybody, just a wonderful concept for something really great for a bar mitzvah. Fine. So we're going to be going. So,
and this shows, by the way, before you go on, this shows on Ely's incredible talent for salesmanship that was able to sell an add-on to Ohad and the band. So go ahead.
Great. It was great. Longest flight I had ever been on, like 17 hours or something, 16 and a half hours. And because I flew from New York, I was there before that event started. And we, before that actual event happened, actually, though, there was a funny story that I get a phone call from Howard, and he is understandably, he's a little frustrated. This is before the event. This is like a couple months before. And what happened? Ohad had an event in Cape Town that he was going to be doing. So that's fine. We agreed he wasn't going to be in Johannesburg before the Feldman stuff. But he went to Johannesburg for the Shabbat before that event just to be with some friends. Those people, without knowing all the nuances and logistics that were worked out for this next event, went ahead and decided to announce that Motzei Shabbos, because he was leaving Sunday morning to this Cape Town event, Motzei Shabbos, we're going to have a kumzitz at our house. Ohad's going to be singing at our house, a nice little Hamish thing. Mr. Feldman gets a notice, an email saying that there's going to be this event. He immediately calls me, and he's not happy. Okay, he's like, I want to be the first one, and what's going on here? And I didn't even know about it. It wasn't a concert. It wasn't a ticket selling promoted thing. It was a Hamish living room thing. So I'm like, what's going on? So I tried to call Ohad to find out what's going on. Now I don't even know when he's flying to Cape Town. So I was finding out at that time from his wife, he had already left. He's on the plane. He hasn't landed yet in Johannesburg for Shabbos. This is all happening on Friday. The last minute thing put together. So I'm sending him messages. I'm texting him. He's with Gershon Freistadt, who's sitting next to him on the plane. And I'm texting him as well. I don't know how many texts I sent. I know that when they finally responded, when the tires hit the ground in Johannesburg, they both messaged me back saying our phones just exploded, okay? Because when we turn them on, we get all these messages from you. Where are you? Where are you? And I quickly explained to Gershon and more specifically to Ohad what was going on. He goes, what do you want me to do? I go, you don't feel well. So he goes, you're right, I don't feel well. and that's what happened. Mr. Feldman was so impressed with Ohad being willing to do, because it wasn't really anybody's fault. It was a Hamish thing. And he didn't realize that they promoted it. He thought it was going to be a bunch of people in this guy's private living room. There were going to be 5 people there, family, friends from the neighborhood. But the guy made an announcement to the community, and that wasn't cool. But it worked out so, at the time, stressful but pleasant, that finally later on, months later when we went back, he was so thrilled to have us there. They treated us like gold. The South Africans and the Johannesburg people were so gracious, so lovely. When we finished, the Maccabees and us all went to Mr. Feldman's office, and in the center of his floor, they sang a goodbye farewell song. This wasn't part of the performance. This is Sunday after we were done, on Monday, when we were done. And we just to say thank you. The day after the event, we couldn't get on that flight. We had to wait another day. He took care of getting us a van, and we went to these little mini safari crocodile places not far from Johannesburg proper, and he got us catered meals. He treated us like royalty. He was just so great. And it was such a great little shidduch, and it wouldn't have happened without Avremi. And one of the cool stories that happened with Avremi, which we couldn't have done without him, was that Mr. Feldman and Avremi, way back in the day when they were a little bit younger, went to a school, yeshiva college, I believe.
That's right.
What was that guy's name? The name, your choir teacher's name?
Menachem Ernstein.
Ernstein, right. Okay. So
from Bnei Brak. Oh, not from Bnei Brak. He lived in Gula, I think, actually. Yeah.
Right. So he lives in Israel.
Gera Chassid.
Right, and he was a choir teacher, and you and Mr. Feldman were both in this choir.
Yep.
And Feldman, Howard, actually had a solo
a particular song.
And he had no idea, but in the middle of the Ohad concert, all the Maccabees came out. Ohad pulled them onto the stage. Underneath our dress formal shirts for the concert was this T-shirt, which had the album cover and the listed. We all took off our formal shirts, and he saw it. He flipped. We played the song that he soloed on. He sang it.
That's right.
And I took the video of that. When I went back to Israel, went to Rob Ernstein, who has a silver store.
Had a silver store, right.
Right. I found him, showed it to him, took a video of him, and sent it to Howard.
Amazing.
It was an incredible moment to be a part of, because
amazing.
I wouldn't have never known about that. So it was great.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Amazing stuff. So let's get to something a little more serious, and that is, what are we dealing with right now in terms of COVID in America and in Israel? So why don't you give the viewers in America a little bit of a glimpse into what's going on in Israel and how Israel is dealing with this crisis, and how the music business is reacting to this crisis in Israel?
So, of course, I'm going to give you what I'm seeing. There's a lot of different views to look at here as far as what people are experiencing. As we've discussed already, I'm not just in the music scene. I do actually now production. I deal a lot with entertainment and taking care of putting these events together in both Israel and America. So it's kind of multifaceted with the various people that I'm in touch with and the various crowds that I deal with, mostly in America and in Israel, but some of the crowds I actually also deal with are in Europe. Like South Africa, we do other destinations as well. And I think across the board for now, everything's on a for sure stop. No question about that, I think we all agree on. And there's one of two things happening, obviously, which is one is cancellations, like the Passover programs. That's canceled. You can't reschedule that until.
We were supposed to be on an Awad show together in Pesach, I think.
We were supposed to be in New Jersey together, Sharmel.
Yeah.
Program we do for many years, and that unfortunately did not happen. And there were a whole bunch of other hotels that everybody's heard, I'm sure, and knows by now exactly what went on with the hotels. And that being said, same thing here. The hotels here, completely shut down, nothing, not a one. I actually only know, and there might be a one I don't know, but I only know one program in the whole world that actually ended up happening. And those were private homes in Orlando that were rented out for private families. That was the only one that I heard of that actually was able to stay the course. As far as what's going on, it's pretty catastrophic for most of the industry as far as what's happening, as far as everything being on hold. Many of the simchas are in one of two phases, and one is people wanting to keep it, the date, either what it was or close to it, and consulted with not only their families, but the rabbanim and everything else. And that's totally understandable. And then there's a whole bunch of clients who've gotten in touch to reschedule. Okay, some rescheduling is very easy, especially when it's two local families, be it two local families in Israel or two local families in New York. However, thank God, many of the jobs we coordinate are events that I'll do for people from two different countries, or bringing in musicians. For example, I have a job I'm doing with Shiva Rock in America, where he's supposed to come in for an event in June, and now they're rescheduling for August. So I have to coordinate many facets, many people, not just my personal people who I work with in New York. But Shai has to see if he's available, and it's not just one day. It's the day before and it's the day after.
Are you saying you're confident that things are going to be okay?
So going to that conversation, I am confident that they will return. I don't know when. I wish I could know. I wish I had it. It will return. I think that like most times that we look back on, they will not return in the beginning like they were. I think that that's an elevation that happens in due time. Okay, people like to keep things moderate when they start out. You know, let's keep it simple. And I think there's a beauty to that as well. I have nothing against that. I think it's a wonderful thing. For all the big, you know, nice size, what we would sometimes call mama jobs, okay, that we are involved with, okay, which are all wonderful. And there's wonderful events on their own for many different reasons. There are a lot of beautiful small ones that we often look at each other going, this is great, okay? I can't tell you how many bar mitzvahs I do from certain communities coming to Israel, which are just 50 people or 40 people, the family and the closest friends, and there's such incredible moments going on there, okay, that you can't quantify. It really is simple. Nothing major. There are beautiful moments, and thank God, in almost every simcha. So it's not a question of what the business will be like. I think in the beginning, it'll be simple, you know, like this type of thing, okay? And then I think, like most things, it'll gradually, how quickly, it depends on a lot of things. Obviously, financing is a big part of it. Where are people at? And what do they feel comfortable spending? Even if someone has the means, they may be very sensitive to those who don't have the means, which were recession times of like 2008 and stuff like that, where people were like, if they could or couldn't, there were many people who were making wonderful examples of even though they could afford it, they specifically didn't do it, so that everybody should know that you don't have to. You don't have to, you know, take out a loan if you don't have to for a simcha, okay? It should be simple. You should be able to enjoy it. You should be able to afford the next one. So that being said, I think it'll return. I think one of the reasons I have a lot of confidence it'll return is because this is what we do. This is what we all live for, okay? It really is, these moments are what keep us going. We all have plenty of things to complain about. We have plenty of things we could get on, and you and I could talk about, knowing each other well, that we could easily let that become a negative focus of where we're at and what we're up to. Everybody has their pile of junk. But one of the reasons, thank God, that we hopefully don't have to deal with it more than we need to is because we look forward to all those moments that are so awesome. And a big part of that is a simcha or a celebration or an event which everybody enjoys for whatever reason or another. And so I can't imagine that there won't be this great bump of wanting to have events. What those events will be like and how big they'll be, who knows? But there'll be a lot of events going on as soon as we're able to have them again. In the meantime, we'll have to deal with the challenge of what we can do. But you know, I was on the phone with a client today in Modi'in who's having a bar mitzvah. He wants to have a great event. He's, thank God, able to consider more or less any option he wants to. It's not about the money, thank God. It's more or less about, I want my kid to have a great time. It's not about how many people. It won't be a big job. It won't be, I don't even know if there'll be 100 people there. But as a second they can open up and allow him to have it in his backyard of all places, he can't wait to have this party for no other reason. I think that it was beautiful to hear. It wasn't about anything else except I want to have a party, a simcha. Can't put it simpler.
Okay, well, I hope you're right, and I hope things get better very, very soon. For those of us that are kind of twiddling our thumbs and conducting Zoom YouTube interviews, we hope to get back to it very soon.
I think, listen, I've always had this thought and feeling, and I've said this in any medium in any profession. It's not it's not really what you're doing; it's that you're busy. So all the challenges that we're dealing with, and everything that everybody has to take care of and be concerned about, understandably, because of all the responsibilities we have, totally makes sense. But I hope and pray that anybody with the biggest challenges they have aren't sitting around doing nothing. Okay, they're at least doing something.
So I can say that you've taught me a couple of very important lessons. That it's not about making a quick buck; it's about a long-term plan. Sometimes you make nice money on a job, but it's about being around and being relevant, being in the mind's eye, and people see you and so on. Look at it as a long-term plan. So those are very important lessons, I think, for those musicians who think, I didn't make X amount of dollars on a particular night, I'm done for. Rather think long-term, uses time to be creative, uses time to create new things, new products, new ideas, to be refreshed for when things do reappear and come up again. And
I was talking just to add to that a little because I totally agree with you. I was talking to another good friend. Okay, her name is Dina Mark. Okay, and she's an event planner in Israel. And we were talking, and there's this concept that I think many people have that there's almost like a little bit, not a little bit, there's like a reset here. Like we're all starting on this playing field again as far as
Sure.
out there. And you're big, you're small, whatever it is, we're all sort of starting at the same starting line again. And so that being said, I think a big part of what I look forward to is cultivating the relationships that are important within this business so that I'm able to think of certain people or that I knew of before and that I didn't know of before. And they're able to think of me as far as things that we can provide for each other. There's a lot of that in our business that's important. I'm able to always know, I always can think of Avremi Gerari, what I know he does, okay? But there are other people out there.
By the way, what do I do? What do I do?
Okay, well, we can flip the whole thing around and make my thing on YouTube. But anyways, what do you do? All right, so as far as I'm concerned, what's the nickname I gave you years ago? What is it?
Sheet music god?
No, sheet god, that was it. No
Sheet
sheet. Okay, so sheet god, which means that as far as I'm concerned, you're the one-stop shop for anything that anybody needs in our business as far as sheet music for lead sheets, for arrangements, for scores, for composition, for anything, you know, scribing, anything that has to do with that. It's going from when I knew you in the beginning to a thing to wow, okay? And anybody who wants to, who doesn't know what I'm talking about, just type his name in on YouTube and you'll see some incredible chuppahs and incredible stuff going on that I've been lucky enough to sometimes be part of. So that being said, that's one thing. The other thing that is a big part of what we do sometimes, and there are only a handful of people I get to do this with, is that there's a certain insight that people have having seen a lot, okay? I see certain things, you see certain things, and you and I over the years have more than one time gotten on the phone and said, what do you think about this, okay, and how this should be dealt with? Some of them are private issues that we'd like to think about amongst ourselves, and some of them are what's dealing in the industry and how they should be dealt with in general. And the beauty of you and I, which has happened more than one or two times, is that it's happened that we don't agree, okay? And sometimes clearly, and we'll have it out, but that doesn't mean a thing, and it can be seen on our posts sometime where you and I will go at it, but it doesn't mean, I remember Marsha one time were like, whoa, guys, Marsha Motzen had like this comment going at it. Guys, you know, it's supposed to be friendly, and then you followed up immediately with, no, I love him like a brother. It doesn't mean I agree with him.
Right, no, exactly.
So that's exactly one of the beauties is that we can go at it, and there aren't that many people. You can't make an old friend. They're either an old friend or they're not, okay? Yeah. So there aren't that many people that you get to be comfortable with that you look for their consult and insight on. There's a few people that come to mind for me, but there aren't as many as we all can have. We're lucky to have a few. And you're one of those people that I can able to call up and say, this is what I'm dealing with. What do you think? And you can say the same to me. So I think that there's that as well. But going back to your point about what to do at this time, I think that it's important that whatever can be done as far as cultivating things, you know, the seeds that will grow out of this, that will be sitting there already, instead of putting those seeds in later, we're all running back to hopefully those events, use this time wisely as best as we can to connect with people. I'm in touch with a certain manager of a travel company right now, and we're looking forward to hopefully setting up some meetings with some hotels and event spaces in Israel in particular, as far as getting back online when that time should come, with sort of addressing some of the concerns and issues for people who are going to be coming overseas. Of course, they're going to be very obvious questions for some and some very unique ones for others. And all of them need to be addressed early on so that the answer is in front of us and it's not a problem solving in the making, because there'll be enough of those to go around as well.
Okay. As I say in my neck of the woods, good gesagt.
Mm-hmm.
So Ely, I want to thank you for this. It's been a true honor that you agreed to do this with me, and I wish you all the best. And thanks for participating. And I'm sure we'll have other sessions. We'll have more things to talk about. But in the meantime, I just wanted to thank you and your family for allowing you to spend time with me today. And hopefully,
it's a complete pleasure. There are moments that I'm able to look over at certain people, and you enjoy each gig the way you enjoy each gig. But like Brian Gelfand, for example, I've known him since high school.
Amazing piano player. Amazing
Piano player. And I can't believe sometimes, and he also, that we're able to play on jobs together. We went to camp together, okay? Like we were teenagers, you know, and I always joke with people, because he's so talented, that, you know, he was playing piano and I was playing drums and we happened to be in the same room. because like he was just so much better. He was just this incredible musician, and he still is. And the fact that we get together and we do jobs now still is just such a joy, and I'm so fortunate in that regard, amongst many other things, thank God. So that being said, you and a few others fall into that category, Dov Katz, certain people who I've known so long that when you're on a job, it's hard to describe it as really work sometimes. And that's hopefully when you brings out your best, because you're having such a good time as well. So therefore, it's just, except for the hot tikva story, everything else is such a great time that it's a pleasure to do the events and the jobs together and to be here with you today.
Well, likewise, and I look forward to meeting on a gig very soon, hopefully. Please God.
There's B'ezras Hashem in either country.
Neither country, yeah. I have to make it back to Israel and Chashmonaim. I tell my wife this all the time. And, hopefully this crisis will pass very soon, and we'll meet each other again, and either in New York or in Yerushalayim or in Chashmonaim. And
by the way, I am a huge fan of Dini. She's an amazing woman.
Yeah, I know. You've also met my mother, and you've also
one of the best compliments I ever got was from your mom.
Oh yeah, well, my mom is a very vivacious lady.
Yeah.
And you've also met my uncle, Rabbi Kurztag, who is a Dayan in South Africa, of Bezdin, who actually now lives in Israel, believe it or not, and he travels back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that. You've met the ganze Mishpach.
Thank God.
And that's it. Okay, Ely, thank you very much. It's now nighttime by you. We'll do this again. I can't
look forward to it.
And looking forward. All the best. Laila Tov.
Bakriyut and smachot. Be well, Avram.
Thank you. Zygos, and take care. Bye-bye.